Hey everyone, I'm Sam Osterhout, the executive producer here at Lincoln Square, and it is the end of the week. Max Burns, how are you doing?
How are you, friend? I'm Democratic strategist and Lincoln Square contributor Max Burns. I just saw before we came on here that the right's favorite vigilante shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, was hospitalized overnight because he was bitten by a brown recluse spider. So
Yeah.
I joined many people online and across the world in wishing a fast recovery to the spider.
Yes, of course. I there's so many jokes in there that I think we just need to peel out, or at least just look on the internet for. Kyle Rittenhouse, man.
This is the only situation where the spider bites a person and the spider dies.
Yeah, of course. And then the person gets off because screw spiders, right? He was just there protecting his homeland. So Max, there is a lot going on today and this week.
Yeah.
We're going to get to the top 5 stories in a second, but I just want to center this whole thing. What is your top line for this week? What is just not the top story? How do you describe this week in aggregate?
A tough week for Democrats all around, topped with a Friday in which we've had at least a dozen big stories before noon, including the Department of Defense releasing UFO documents. And honestly, at this point, unless the aliens have a bunch of cheap gas and a way to end the war in Iran, I don't particularly care what the aliens are up to. But Democrats, they've got a lot of problems right here on Earth. And I think quite a few of our stories this week hit on that.
Yeah, well, can I be honest about the alien thing? I didn't know that had dropped, and I kind of want to go now and Google it. Like,
it shows you how much we have to deal with, that we dropped that aliens are real, and people say, I really don't have time for that right now. Can you come back to us next week?
I just filled up my gas tank, and it was $4.80 per gallon.
Yep.
Seems bad. Seems bad. Not
a little bit over $6 in some parts of California as well, and no signs of slowing.
So we're going to get to that story in a sec. Let's start with our number 5 story of the week, Hantavirus, which is actually Andy's virus, which is apparently a subset of the Hantavirus. Hantavirus.
Hantavirus.
Hantavirus.
No idea. It's I'm not sure they're so concerned about the pronunciation. They spend most of their time on the toilet on this ship this week.
Yes. Well, look, this is giving everyone trauma. It's a little PTSD from 2020. A very similar figure was in the White House at the time. And this story actually didn't start this week. April 11th, a 70-year-old Dutchman died aboard ship after a fever, headache, diarrhea. There were no tests performed. The captain told the passengers the ship was not infectious. And, well, Max, here we are.
It's always the Dutch, isn't it? I mean, if there's anyone that we can blame, it's the Dutch. And now we have Donald Trump saying, well, we think it's under control. We don't know. We'll do the best we can. I think we actually have a clip of Trump's not very reassuring response to this.
Briefed on the virus.
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us what you learned in these briefings?
Well, I think you're going to be told everything, and you already have. It's very much, we hope, under control. It was the ship, and I think we're going to make a full report about it tomorrow. We have a lot of people, a lot of great people are studying it. It should be fine. We hope.
Should Americans be concerned that it's going to spread? And how are you working to get those
I hope not. We'll do the best we can.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, I think that is the mantra of this administration always, is that who knows?
Yeah, hope for the best. Yeah. And he's wrong. I mean, we don't have the best people working on it. In fact, the Department of Health and Human Services fired through DOGE cuts a lot of their infectious disease experts and epidemiologists, the kind of people who have spent careers studying hantavirus. So this really is sort of making it up as we go along. Trump clearly has no idea what anybody has said in these briefings. You could not be more vague if you tried.
No, and look, I saw some reporting that RFK had fired specifically people who were involved in cruise ship, investigation. I haven't confirmed that, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was actually the true story. This is look, everything comes down to this mantra for Trump, which is we can't do that because it's too hard, right? Everything is too hard. There's a potential pandemic. Look, the WHO is saying we're all safe. So I think it's worth saying that. It's also worth saying nobody believes anybody anymore because fuck you. We just had this pandemic. Yeah, and you're the people who are telling me that this is safe. In any case, Trump is like, shrug. Who knows? Maybe we're safe, maybe not. It's just too hard for me to understand whether we are going to die from this or whether we're not. Right? Like that's what he's saying. And number 4 story, let's run that one quick. It is the same thing. Yep. Solving Iran is too fucking hard for me. I can't do it. And 60% of Americans disapprove with this war and with how he's handling the war in particular. And the other day he truths this, which is his only measure of success, Iran excursion, which I think we're going to talk about in a second. The Iran excursion is, he says, 6 weeks. Of course, it's been more like 10 or 12 at this point. But that's his measure of success, right?
Yep. And I don't think he fully realizes how unpopular the phrase Iran excursion is with voters.
Right.
And how unpopular it is that he doesn't seem to be taking this very seriously. I mean, does anyone in America know what Donald Trump's plan for Iran is? Does Donald Trump know? I mean, he's negotiating a ceasefire at the same time that we're exchanging missile fire with Iran. We announced 3 days ago that we would escort ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And then a day later, he said, actually, never mind. That seems too difficult. I'm not going to do it. And he backtracked on this while Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was briefing reporters on how this would work. So clearly, not even his own administration knows what he's thinking about this war. He doesn't seem to know minute to minute. I mean, it's, as you note, it's been 6 weeks for about 11 weeks now. I mean, how much longer is it going to be 6 weeks?
Yeah. Well, if you stop, looking at calendars, then it's 6 weeks, right? If you stop testing for coronavirus, then you don't have a pandemic, right? It's calendar's fault. It's not Trump's. I think, again, his mind is lazy. He has a lazy mind. He has a very quick attention span. And it always, always, always comes down to the one thing that he's most interested in is his own particular status. That's it.
Yeah.
Once Iran looked like a shit show, let's say day 2, he lost interest because it doesn't elevate his status any longer. And guess what? It's too hard. It's just too hard.
Yeah. And now he comes out yesterday and says, I have a 1-page memo that's going to end this war. Iran's going to love it. Now, this may sound to you a lot like the 1-page memo for infrastructure, the 1-page memo on healthcare, the 1-page memo that's going to end the coronavirus. There's a lot of these 1-page memos that we never see, and Iran isn't seeing them. They've stopped attending these ceasefire meetings weeks ago. So it's unclear to me who Donald Trump thinks he's talking to, because he certainly isn't talking to anybody with the power to actually end this war.
No, and the thing that got me was he's calling it a MOU and a memorandum of understanding, which is like, when you're a freelancer and you go contract with a media company to do some work, you sign an MOU.
Yeah.
It's just so lazy. And look, America has responded, right? In polling and all of this, we hate it. Americans, we hate all of this stuff. And we're looking at November, and GOP is looking at November, and they're seeing a blue tsunami, right, coming. We can talk about that again in a minute. And so what do? Well, our third story, redistrict. Last week, actually, oh my God, last week. I'm like, what week are we in? The Supreme Court essentially gutted the voting rights VRA, setting up what would become the sort of racial gerrymander of all racial gerrymanders, which happened almost within the hour of the decision in some states and some state legislatures. Where do you see this going? I mean, it feels like a frenzy at the moment. Tennessee, Louisiana, Alabama is voted in during a tornado, right? Is this going to work out for the GOP? Who does this work out for?
Yeah, I mean, right now, this is a nightmare scenario for Democrats, quite honestly. The Supreme Court, just this morning before we came on, the Supreme Court in Virginia overruled their referendum to redraw the districts. Democrats had hoped to pick up 4 seats with that redrawing. That is now not going to happen. They're back to the 2021 maps. That really leaves Republicans in the driver's seat here. VoteHub estimates that if this moves forward at the pace we expect, Republicans may pick up 10 additional seats here. And what's more concerning to me isn't just the left and the right issue. It's that we're moving very quickly into a country where red states are 100% red districts. Blue states will be 100% blue districts. We're no longer even pretending that representation is the point here. And I wonder what happens in a representative government that no longer represents people. I mean, we have examples of this from history. The United Kingdom in the 19th century, and it led to civil conflict. It led to unrest. People realize when their votes are being taken away from them, even if you still let them vote. But in Virginia, the Supreme Court basically said, you voted, it doesn't matter. We're throwing out the votes. Meanwhile, you have Florida, you have Alabama, you have Iowa, Tennessee now, who are redistricting without even allowing voters to vote on it. They don't care what you think. This is a power play, because Republicans realize this is the only way that they're going to hold power.
So I'm really, it's a mess. Like, it is a mess, and is anti-democratic in every sense of the word. And it's frustrating that that happened to Virginia today, and all the red states can just go merrily along their way for the most part. But I'm really curious about your thoughts on the sort of longer term cultural and societal impact of this, because it feels to me like, look, Democrats, we've always talked about reforming the Electoral College, for example, or the way that representation works, or trying to reform elections and redistricting and eliminate gerrymandering, all of these things that you want to send to a think tank, and you want to do your debate, and you want to have all of the fresh ideas. This is a reform that has gotten no debate. We are crashing and thundering into it, and it's fundamentally remaking our electoral system. Yeah. What happens when we are only red, only blue? Is there a knee-jerk reaction in the other way? Will this ever? I mean, it feels to me like in the midterm, like in the mid-range, we've got to rethink our democracy almost altogether. Yeah, and make no mistake, this is now just a power dynamic. This has nothing to do with representation, ensuring that people have a voice that corresponds to their vote, ensuring that the will of any public that can be measured is actually executed. And if you're skeptical of that, if you think I'm being too hard, let's look at this clip from Alabama to show you just how serious Republicans have been about passing these redistricting ballots.
Call us back in and say, now we didn't came, now they didn't call us coming back and trying to go. He didn't made the motion to pass the bill when we supposed to be going into recess.
So what you're looking at there, Alabama Republicans refused an emergency recess of their state legislature because of a tornado that was looming down on them. They quite literally risked their lives and the lives of civil servants and the clerks and everybody in those buildings so that they could force through this vote. And you ask what happens? Well, what happens is you have competitive districts that are no longer competitive. And when you have non-competitive districts, red or blue, people no longer have to play to the average voter. They don't have to moderate. You can have the most extreme positions possible and know you're going to win by 15 points. The question for Democrats, for Republicans, for anyone who's going to be running the House is how do you manage a legislature where 3/4 of the people who are elected are so extreme and so uncompromising because they never have to worry about appeasing a public? You think Congress isn't doing anything now? Wait until every single lawmaker is an extremist, and you'll get absolutely nothing done. You will barely even have a quorum to pass funding bills. And then things get really bleak for taxpayers.
Very bleak. And I think, in those districts that are just safely red, it's not just that they tend to become more extremist if they're non-competitive. The non-competitive nature of that actually encourages extremism, right? Because you're the only election that matters is the primary. And the people who go for the primary are the hot to trot, extremist base who are fired up for their particular candidate. And so you always go hard right if it's a red district or hard left if it's a blue district in the primary. And then the general is essentially uncontested the other party. So you have the extremist of the party on the ticket winning every time. And so that's the future of our democracy. So my bigger question then is, first of all, how do we reform that, after this weird era? Number two, do we reform it? Is there a will to reform? Because I feel like this is a sort of stagflation of democracy, right? It is the sort of simmering apathy at the very bottom when you realize your vote, you are totally disenfranchised. You have no participation in this system, no power to enact or elect the leaders of your choice. And so what do? You quit.
Yeah. You quit. I mean, and that is, we statistically know this to be true.
Yes.
That the less competitive a district is, the more extreme the person elected is, and the less voter participation you have. Because what is the point? Why vote when you know it's not going to matter? So they don't show up for general elections. And the problem is that means they're not voting for president, for governor, for attorney general, for any other races either. And as voter participation drops off, fewer and fewer voters are electing more and more of the people. So they represent a smaller and smaller extreme segment of the country. What you do to fix this is you've got to take redistricting out of the hands of legislatures. I mean, I don't know that we have a political appetite for that right now, but I will tell Democrats, popular or not to hear, Democrats will not win this fight. The way the Democratic Party's voter base is laid out geographically, you could make all the blue states completely blue. You will still not win this fight against Republicans. You may win the House in November, but this is not, just on the math alone, a fight that's going to win for Democrats or for voters or for democracy. And when people lose faith in democracy, you get to really violent and really bad places really fast.
Well, let's go to the number 2 story.
Did I cheer you up?
I can't top that. I'm going to go drink now. Speaking of drinking, Fetterman is threatening to abandon the Dems. This has been one of those stories that I've been just catching the sort of margins of because I find Fetterman so uninteresting that when his name comes up in a story, I sort of scan and I'm here. But is he playing for favors? What is his actual play here?
I don't think John Fetterman knows. I mean, he is honestly the Kyrsten Sinema of the party at the moment. He's moving without any strategy whatsoever. Yeah. He knows that he's going to get creamed in his reelection. He doesn't know even if he's going to run again. He has said so far that he doesn't plan to leave the Democratic Party, but that he also doesn't plan to support much of what the Democratic Party does. And my guess is that he's shaping himself up to be sort of a Joe Manchin, assuming in a scenario where Democrats win the House by a vote, he will quickly become either the vote that goes to Republicans to tie things up, or he'll become an independent and caucus with Republicans and once again show Americans that the Senate cannot function. I mean, he is a chaos agent that does not care about democracy. It's unclear from these things he's written what he actually cares about other than his own headlines.
Well, that's my, my mind went immediately to Manchin as well. The guy who lives on a yacht, and remember the Manchin boat.
Yep.
What a guy! But the thing about Joe Manchin is there was always a case to be made. He was a Democrat elected in a red state who was moderating his own views or, reflecting his own policy positions on his constituency, right? Representing the people who voted him in. And there was, he was a voice from the right, but, was a Democrat. He had a sort of North Star. I don't know that Fetterman has any North Star. I don't know what he's for. I don't know what he's against. He seems more interested in trolling. He seems like he gets his feelings hurt a lot.
Yep.
I don't, and also to that end, like you said, he's up in 28, right? I don't know that he is representing his constituents.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot argue in any sense of the word that John Fetterman is representing the constituents of Pennsylvania. Poll after poll after poll of Pennsylvanians shows that. As Josh Shapiro noted, they elected a Democrat. What they got was someone who seems to shift his political views day to day, and at this point seems to delight in sticking his finger in the eye of the Democratic Party. I mean, this is a guy who voted for Kristi Noem, voted for Kash Patel, voted for half the people who have been booted out already for misconduct, and delights in it. Did it for no other reason than it upset the libs, who he now is apparently convinced are the worst people in the country. I mean, this is a person who I cannot wait to see either primaried out or leave in shame. And I just have to wonder how this keeps happening to the Democratic Party. So close to having functional control, there's always one that decides, nope, I'm going to make this about me.
Yeah, always. And I think that's, we have Plattner in Maine. Everyone is sort of comparing that. He's got some questionable stuff happening. He's saying all the right things. He seems like a working class guy. And all of our spidey senses are kind of like, oh, yeah, is this going to happen again? Well, whether it's with Plattner or not, it will happen again because we're Democrats, goddammit. Let's move on to the last thing, because this is also, I think, impacting or will wildly impact the midterms. Trumpflation.
Yes, everything is more expensive. Everything is more expensive. And I want our viewers to take a look at this clip from 2024. This was Donald Trump's promise to you on the campaign trail.
In contrast, I'm announcing today that under my leadership, the United States will commit to the ambitious goal of slashing energy and electricity prices by half, at least half.
Oops. Screwed that one up.
Look, Trump has had the ability to campaign on statements like that without any even concepts of a plan, right? He says things, and look, I used to, in 2016, I was teaching college English. I was teaching composition. And for the argumentative essay, my students would submit all of these crazy theses and do all this stuff. And one student wanted to argue that Trump was the clear choice. Yep. And so she laid out all of the plans in her essay between Clinton and Trump. And she said, you know, even in her essay, she talked about the VA, for example. She said, you know, that was a issue that was near and dear to her heart. And she said, you know, Hillary Clinton's plan has, you know, she will appoint a person to do this, and then they'll do an audit. They will figure out where, you know, how best to serve enlisted men and women and veterans, and then they'll flush the place with cash. And Trump's plan is to make it really, really good. Clearly, Trump wins, right? There were no details in this, and this is that. I'm going to cut energy in half.
Yeah. I mean, and essentially now, faced with the fact that that's not true, energy is now the highest it's ever been, he's just lying. He just goes out and lies and hopes that people will believe it. The difference is nobody believes it anymore. I think we have some clips of Trump talking about gas prices here.
More than $4.50.
Well, no, gas prices have come down today. Have you looked? They've come down very substantially today. The gas prices, you know what's happened today? Gas prices are way down.
Where? What is he talking about? Gas prices, fuel prices, jet fuel prices are so expensive. American airlines are going bankrupt. I mean, the country that he lives in is one he can no longer spin to his voters because they can feel that they're poorer now than they were. They can see the prices they're paying for gas. They see that it costs $200 to fill up an F-150. Whatever Donald Trump says, whatever they might have once believed, all the polls indicate they don't believe it anymore.
Yeah, I believe we have a little montage of this. That's right.
I filled up my tank, $85. That's ridiculous.
We spend like 1/3 of a check just on gas.
Look at that right there. 627.74.
But gas prices are going down, Sam.
Yeah.
It's all better now. And it isn't just fuel prices, it's energy in general. Your air conditioning, your heating. Huge amounts of anything that relies on energy has gone up, which is everything. The cost of groceries at the store has gone up. The cost of even running a grocery store has gone up. And now wages are not keeping pace with this huge spike in inflation. So people are quite literally getting poorer, and they can feel it.
And look, I think it's actually really worth just mentioning that at this same time that all of these energy prices are skyrocketing, he has slashed any incentive for green energy or renewable energy sources, which could alleviate a lot of this pressure. Could also have rippling effects on our global policy, right? And our energy needs from abroad. Like China is creating green energy storage at an incredible pace. We have doubled down on a technology and industry and energy that nobody in the world wants.
Yeah.
We're going to be that. Do you remember as a kid, you drive down on the old country highway and there was the shitty old service station that it was like the only one, maybe it's me because I grew up in Kansas. It's the only one between 60-mile apart cities, and it's dusty and it's got a screen door, and that's America.
Yeah.
The old broken down service station. That's it.
Yeah. And it's hurting the future, right? You think energy prices are up, so it's more to heat my home, cool my home. It's more to drive my car. But you look at the numbers that came out this week, and it's the fact that the energy prices up, the tech companies and service companies that run data centers and use a lot of energy have now been into their 16th straight month of job declines. They're laying off tens of thousands of people. They're canceling jobs. This refusal to move over towards a green mix for energy isn't just hurting blue states, it's hurting red states like Texas, which are now on the verge of outproducing California in green energy, but they have no way to move it to other states. They have no way to store it because Donald Trump and Republicans refuse to invest in this. So it is literally going nowhere. And as we become less competitive, those job losses are just going to accelerate.
Yeah, and that's look. This is we need to wrap. That's a great place to wrap, actually, because as of right now, if our politics, our economy, our polling, our all of the things, if we look at the trajectory, it's this. So next week, Max, we got to look for some blips, for some up. we need a couple of stories that are good. Maybe the potential pandemic will be solved by then.
There are some charts that are going up and to the right besides prices. I mean, farmer suicide rates are way up over Joe Biden. So that's definitely improved a lot. It's hitting new records thanks to Donald Trump. But, oh, you meant good things. I don't have any of those.
Well, anyway, Max Burns, Democratic strategist, Max Burns. I'm Sam Osterhout. Thank you all for watching. Max, where can we find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at @TheMaxBurns, and I'm publishing every Wednesday in Dame Magazine and The Hill.
Amazing.